Okay, that's right.
Other side of the state.
Hey, everybody. It is so nice to see you. Melanie McAllister here coming in from Alaska. And today we have a special guest. It's Thrive O'Clock with Rachelle and Mel. And we have a special guest today. Rachelle, tell us a little bit about our guest.
Well, our guest is a good friend of mine, and I'm so excited that he's had a busy week. And so I'm glad that he's joining in here with us today on our Friday Thrive O'Clock at a different time. So our special guest, if you don't recognize him right now, I'm sure you know him. How could you not recognize him? It's Tom Murray.
What's up, everybody? Hope you are well. And I no longer have the COVID haircut, so maybe I'm somewhat recognizable again. So yeah, no, it's awesome to be with you guys this afternoon.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you.
Thanks.
It is so cool. And it is my first time getting to meet Tom in like real life. I guess this is as real as life is going to get, right?
This is as close as we're getting. Alaska and Pennsylvania. That's it. No, it's great to be
true. We're separated by thousands of miles in 4 hours. And everybody who's watching, number one, thank you so much for tuning in today. And we'd love to know how your week is going. So please drop your comments and any questions you have for any of us, and we'd love to get there. So I know this is my favorite part of our talk. We talk about weekly takeaways. Tell us what you guys were up to this week and something that really resonated with you.
I'll let Tom go first.
I was going to let you go first. Ladies first is what I was going to say, but I guess if you insist, this is your show. I'm just here to listen to the bosses. So yeah. This week I got to connect with, in August, I get to do a lot of openings around the country working with schools. And to me, it's some of the neatest days that I get to spend because we have the passion and the energy. But I will tell you this year, no surprise, it's just different. You know, there's so much anxiety, so much fear, so many unknowns. And that's just the world in which we all live. But for me, getting to stand in front of educators, I got to travel a little bit and be face-to-face, socially distanced, everybody wearing masks, everybody spread out. But just being around people, it reminded me this week of just we can do this, we will get through this, and just the constant reminder of educators all across the country standing up, fighting through fear, fighting through anxiety, and just doing unbelievable things for kids. And so whether it was being in Missouri or Minnesota or virtually as well through Zoom, just getting to connect with people is a refresher for me, even in a year with all the unknowns and whatnot. So number one, I believe in educators. Number two, it really refreshed my mind in that with the amount of fear and anxiety that's real and that's out there, there's still educators just like you watching this that are running and breaking through walls for kids because our kids and our communities deserve it. And we're just doing the best that we can. And so that was a big takeaway for me this week.
Wow, that is a huge takeaway. I should have gone first because I don't think I can top that. No, it's and I was checking out I was seeing all your posts and how you were getting ready to do keynotes, and it is so different. I had seen that some schools were having the in-person kind of the PD or having keynote speakers come in. I saw people traveling, but it is nice to be able to have this space to connect with people from all around the world. And my takeaways from this week is it's tough. I've had some moments through this week where I've just thought, oh my gosh, how are we going to get through this? There are so many challenges out there, and just seeing the different conversations happening on Twitter and on Facebook and just friends that are reaching out and everything. Just a ton of frustration, lots of tears being shed, but some of the tears of frustration, but there are way more tears of joy and happiness of seeing the kids and getting back to teaching and doing what we all love. So that's the thing that's going to keep us going. I mean, it's going to be long days and it's not going to be easy. I mean, teaching, I don't know why I ever thought it would get easier. It doesn't matter how long you've been teaching. It definitely does not get easier. So my takeaways from this week are just make time to breathe. I keep listening to melody in my head. You got to now I can't remember what the advice was. Oh, you have to live your life. Because remember I thought you told me to get a life, but you said I have to live my life. And so I am trying to do that. But yeah, it's been a interesting week getting started.
So one takeaway, can I share one more piece?
Yes,
that might be really helpful?
Of course, share all you want.
One of the things that I've been sharing with our districts and, whether they're superintendents I'm working with, principals or teachers and support staff, is around the idea of controlling the controllables right now. There's so many things that are out of our reach. Every one of us watching this, your governor could shut things down tomorrow and everything you've been planning switches yet again for the 47th time on Monday. It's possible. Maybe you're a superintendent and you fully recognize like you no longer control virtually everything and your board doesn't either. Maybe you're a teacher being like, how many days are we actually going to be in person or hybrid before that's just the reality of it. But yet there's so many things in life that we still will always control. Our own mindset, the passion that we bring into the room when we get there, like the energy that we have, like what my why and my purpose is and how I'm going to stay focused on kids. Like we actually control a lot more things than we realize when we stay focused on the things that we can control. And yet let's give ourselves enough grace in the things out of our control, and it's going to happen. It's not if, it's when, that we just keep rolling forward and just keep doing our best forward and failing forward and recognizing, look, like I'm going to give myself enough grace to recognize I'm just going to do the best that I can, but I will stay focused on the things that I absolutely can control, like my attitude, my mindset, the way I react to other people, and so on and so forth. So I hope that gives a little bit of focus and hope for those watching as well.
Yeah, that definitely does.
Yeah. And I think I love that you said that it's about like what we can control. It's not about controlling students. It's about, because we can't control students. And I see a lot of chat about that and how there's like two sides. One side is saying, you know, like we just need to be teaching manners and etiquette and stuff. And you know, we talk about the uniforms and all these things that we think students should be doing. And then the other side is like, wait a minute, we're like guests in these kids' homes, you know, like, you know, we can't control everything that they do. We can't control if they're eating or not, but you're talking about controlling us. Like we literally are, we can't control our students, you know, and honestly, we never should. So, I mean, it's not about control. So I love how you said that.
Thanks.
I cut you off, Rachelle. I'm sorry.
I didn't notice. I was listening to you and I was thinking that you were going to ask a question and, I
did have a question, but I felt like I cut you off.
No, ask the question.
It's my kids. They're making me crazy. My brain is frazzled.
No,
you just got to control the controllables, right? That's
I know. No,
I control my kids.
But you know what? That is a good message, because I think that's a thing that for a lot, I mean, all of us, just how we're preparing when we don't have that normal control of our classroom. Like some of us aren't going back into the classroom, or we are, and we don't know if we're going to be coming home the next day for an extended period of time. And so how do you prepare for what you don't know or you can't predict? And a couple of weeks ago, I had Dave Schmittou on my Wednesday Thrive and EDU on Learning Revolution. And it was like, how do you find the focus? Like, how do you know what to focus on? And when, like, what do you do? And you just think about what's most important. So setting up the relationships, and what are the things that you yourself can do to bring your best self into the classroom or whatever that space is. So, but it's hard. I forget about that sometimes too, because the overwhelm sometimes just sets in and I freeze. It's like, what do I do now? You know, and
Rachelle, you know where I think that comes from? I think it comes from educators have high standards of themselves and other people. Educators like want things to go perfectly. I swear educators, I know it's not scientifically correct, all right? But like, I swear educators are like wired to be perfectionists. Like I've never met an educator that doesn't want the lesson to go really well, or, you know, and when we think about those examples, we set ourselves up to fail, I think, as educators, because like we set this standard quite often, and it's a really well-intended piece. Like we have high expectations. We want our kids to do well. We want to be well-planned. We want our lessons to go really well. And then when things don't go our way, we feel like we let somebody down. And that's just the educator heart right there. And it's knowing that like in the next number of weeks, like things aren't going to go our way. Things are going to happen. Maybe you're doing something through Zoom and your Wi-Fi goes out. Like maybe you're doing something online and, you know, kids are struggling to connect those. And let's give ourselves enough grace to just say like, it's okay. It's okay. Like take a breath, keep moving it forward. And as long as you can go to bed at night, putting your head on the pillow, being like, I know that I gave my all today. I know that I was well planned and gave my very best. And you know what? It didn't go as well planned. That's okay. Because that idea around failing forward, I think like if our kids look at us as here's this perfect person that it always works out for, that never makes mistakes, that knows the content and the standards and everything by memory, backwards and forwards, can do it all, like they can't relate to you. Because they have no idea what that feels like in life, right? And so when we take those moments of uncertainty, those moments when things don't go our way, and we just keep moving it forward and just getting up and keep trying and getting up and keep trying, like we get to model perseverance to kids of like, listen, like yesterday when we were trying to do this lesson, it didn't work the way I thought it was. And guys, I'm sorry about that. But you know what? That's kind of life right now in 2020, isn't it? So we're just going to keep it moving forward. And you know what? Our kids respect that. And I think if you're an admin, we got to respect that too.
And you know what's so funny
Kids
about that?
Are way forgiving.
It's like, I used to be so afraid of making mistakes, right? I'd stand in the front of the room, and if I said a word wrong or if I did something, I just always worrying about that for years. And it kept me just positioned in the front of the classroom, afraid to make mistakes. And then I don't know what part of it changed, but at one point I decided, okay. And now I just laugh. I mean, when I do presentations or if I'm in my class with my students, and it's so much fun to just laugh at yourself. Like, okay, that totally did not go how I thought it was going to go. Like, that was awful. And I'll even say, who came up with that idea? And they're like, you did. I went, oh, I should have given that a little bit more thought instead of just throwing that together in the 3 minutes before you came in. And they said, no, you don't do that. I said, oh yeah, there are times when you walk in the room and I totally changed the plan I had. I just make something up on the fly. And it sometimes it goes well, and sometimes they look at me like, what are we supposed to do? I'm like, I don't really know.
Right.
Figure it out.
I love that you said that. I think that teachers, we're amazing at reading a room. Those of us that like actually care about people, like I'm sure there are people out there that don't, but like we can read a room and change things on a fly just by sensing the emotions and everything that's going up. I love that you said that. And we can still do that, like when we're sensing something in our Zoom, and if something isn't going right, laughing at it and saying, you know what, this just isn't working, and our students are going to respect that, and they're still going to love us.
Yeah, I did that at the end of the past school year. I think it was on one of the Fridays or something. I had a plan, and I spent all this time putting this plan together, and then they joined in and they were tired, and I said, okay, let's have real talk. So we just had what we started to call real talk and whatever it was. And then I decided just to do a scavenger hunt and grabbed a couple things real quick, set up a Padlet and breakout rooms. I had no idea how that was going to work, but it ended up being the best thing ever. And actually one of the students said, Ms. Poth, I don't think I can actually participate in the scavenger hunt. And I said, why? He said, because I'm in my pool right now. I said, I don't know how often or if anybody would ever be able to say, I'm in my Spanish 2 class right now and I'm in my pool. And I said, well, guess what? The scavenger hunt actually has things outside in nature. So you're in the perfect spot. But it was fun to do and try it out and see, what happened. But I mean, it was a risk too, because it could have gone really badly, but popping into those rooms and then just actually having conversations with them, being able to hear each other. And couldn't see each other because I had the Zoom rooms locked down so much that they couldn't talk to anybody but me for a while anyway. But it was fun.
Rachelle, I think that's respecting the human side of our work though. And I think, like if I'm a superintendent, I'm a principal watching this, it gets to the point of showing as well, like we've got to create the cultures where those kinds of things are okay. And if you're not on page 47, standard 2B on Friday at 9:07, like that's okay. Because if we're going to talk about being like personal, if we're going to talk about being authentic, if we're going to talk about like really meeting kids where they are, there's times where we have to say, you know what, the script that I developed today isn't going to work, because you can't say differentiate and personalize and then say that's not okay, because that's hypocritical. And so like if we expect them to meet people like where they are, that needs to be okay to say, you know what, today we're going to do this differently today because we just need that day. And when kids see that, you're modeling in life, look, like when plan A doesn't happen, we're going to go to plan B and we're going to make plan B the best plan B that's possible. And you're teaching a life lesson in that regard.
Yeah. Did you say have a script? Am I supposed to have a script?
You do write out your lessons word for word and just read it from the run of the room, right? That's what I do. I'm just kidding.
Maybe for, I don't know, a week or something. No, I'm kidding. Could you imagine though? I mean, literally like trying to follow a script. And
I guess where that comes from.
I used to do that.
No, but it's when I work with educators across the country, I get to see a lot. And what happens is as the pendulum swings, sometimes places will go from like no scope and sequence, nothing written. So they'll say like everything's got to be down. And literally it'll be like on August 17th, you have to be exactly here. And then like, by the way, differentiate and personalize. Like, yeah. And so it's that pendulum going back and forth, and some jump to that extreme. Where does it come from? Like, yeah. And so like it's there, it's out there. And so it's just being really careful of like, yes, we've got to be conscious of those things. No, it's not a free for all. But yeah, if we're not creating cultures where teachers can just be real with kids, then at the end of the day, like that's not the kind of environment I want my own children in as dad, And so kudos to you for taking those moments and just being real.
Definitely. I mean, if we can't be real, what can we be at this point? I mean, we're in the midst of a crazy storm. I was going to say something else, but I respect you too much for.
Did you see my eyes on that one? Like,
yeah, I sure did.
Wait, should I hold my? Is there an edit button? Can we go back and rewind and fix?
No, this is live. And I want to say, as JC said hi, Kim said hi, everybody who's watching, thank you so much. Please drop some comments. How are you doing? What are your takeaways? Fill us in. We want to hear from you also. And so you said something, Tom. How old are your kids in school? How is that working out for you?
My little girl's going into 5th grade. My little boy's going into 1st grade. And so, that's the lens that I really try and see the world through is like, what is it that I want for my daughter going into 5th grade? What is it that I want through my son? And as I work nationally, it's like, if I expect that for my own children, I need to, from an equity end, try and expect that for every child in terms of like what they should have access to and opportunities and those kinds of things there. But it keeps me focused on the human side. When we talk about right now, like what has to be front and center is things around trauma and mental health. And like when I look at my own babies, like, do I want them having the straight A in math if as a human being, they're totally falling apart every day? Or do I want them to be like feeling good about themselves and understanding things like self-care and confidence, and then maybe the B in math because we're also doing those things? And I know that's not a good analogy, but it's the example of, when I look at it through my dad eyes, I care more about them as the whole child than just some sort of data points and test scores. And so how do we make sure that we see the whole child, see those kind of hidden stories within in our own children, and then support them, of course, on the academic side, and make sure it's not an either or. Sometimes we get this mindset of like, we don't have any time for the SEL. We don't have any time for the relationship building. And to me, like my pushback is then like, well, you're then calling out, you don't have time for relationships and you don't have time for building a culture people want to be. Like, I don't want to be in that environment. And so it's not an either or, it really needs to be an and we really can have high standards, and focus on the academic piece, absolutely, when the other pieces are also in place. But this year more than ever, the SEL, the trauma, and those aspects of things have to be front and center.
I tell you what, I wish I heard that a long time ago, because I stayed away from building the relationships because that wasn't my experience as a student in high school. I mean, I didn't see that. And so I was teaching the way I've been taught. And it's like, don't ask me what I did on my weekend. And, that fine line between student and teacher. And man, if I could go back and change that, because what a difference that made. I mean, professionally, obviously, just in my classroom, but for me personally, being able to connect with those students. And so for anybody who's listening now, that's the advice. Like things I wish I knew when I started teaching, or things I wish I knew the first 10 years that I was teaching, would be what Tom just said right there.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, Rachelle, because really there's so many thousands, millions of teachers in this world, and we're all coming in with different ideas and how to engage and what is right and what we've learned. So I love that you said that, and we're very transparent. And, something that I think when I was reading with my son right before we jumped on, which is why I was late, we're having a conversation, we're reading about sharks. And it just reminded me that the conversations that we have with our students or our children really go a very long way. Like we don't think about, but the talking is so important. And when we're on our Zooms, we're engaging with people. Those are the things that our kids remember. The worksheets and stuff, man, they can't wait to put that crap away. But it's like that, whatever we find to engage, if we're reading, for me, with my own kids, I'm like, if we're reading and talking about this stuff, they're remembering it. And they're more likely to write for me. I haven't had, so I have homeschooled my kids for last year. And then this year, we were going to go back into the public school, but not for this year. And so I will say that I haven't had a lot of trouble getting my kids to write, because we're talking about stuff all the time. So they feel like they have something to write about, and I just feel like that's the power of engagement. It kind of breaks down those walls academically also, but it makes them feel empowered. So just having conversations, like if teachers out there, if you're having great conversations, like you said, real talk with your students, you're doing an amazing job. So kudos to all of you.
Yeah. And I think what you're focusing on there too is like you're showing them that they matter and that they have a voice. And so when kids feel like they're an important part of it, like do they feel like it's like, so from a teacher end, the analogy I'll make often from a professional learning is like, do you feel like professional learning is something done to you or something you're a vital part of? And a lot of times they feel like, well, it's something done to me. It's something I got to check off the box. I've just got to do it there. Because our students, we could ask the exact same question. Like, do you feel like the learning's done to you, or do you feel like you're a vital part? And it's so how do we leverage their voice, their choice, their interests, their passions, their strengths, those kinds of things to make the learning like relevant and contextualized in their world, whatever that might be. And that's how we really get engagement. You know, in life, adults won't be engaged in an in-service day or a faculty meeting if there's no reason to be engaged, right? And so it's not just a student thing. This is an adult thing as well. We all have like all the world's information at our fingertips with lots of other choices and lots of things that we could do at any moment in time. And so if I'd rather have my mind somewhere else, I'm going to do that, right? And so that engagement of bringing it to life, tapping their interest and passion. But I'll tell you, it's not easy. Like I've worked with 17-year-old kids. They can be a really hard group to reach, right? But the more that we can make it just I despise the term like real life, because like our kids live their real life every day and school's part of their real life. And so like the more that we can make it just that they can connect to, that connected learning idea, certainly the more they'll engage they'll be. And that's good whether it's virtual or in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes our mind off the things that we can't control. Like we were saying earlier, like we can control how engaging we are. We can control us, but we can't control our students. And we get frustrated more easily when we're trying to push that control onto them. So I totally agree. Love it.
Oh my.
So I have a question that came to my mind before we get to our weekend chats, and here's something I would love for everybody to talk about. How are you also living your life? How are you taking care of yourself? What are you doing to enjoy in the midst of all of this so that you don't burn out? Who wants to be honest?
I'm going to let Rachelle go first on
that one. Well, there was that time yesterday I tried to take a nap and then Melody called me.
I know, I felt terrible. I felt terrible.
No, but it was good. I was glad to talk to you. But I was actually laying down for a little bit, but yeah, it's been different because now that I'm back to school, I got into such a habit of getting up early in the morning. I mean, for some people, it's not that early, but walking and then walking at night. So I was walking 5 or 6 miles, sometimes 7 miles a day, and making time to read and practice my guitar. Although the last couple of days, not so much walking, not so much guitar playing, tons of screen
7
time.
or 8 miles.
Yeah. No. Oh, no, 8 miles. No.
Okay.
7. But I might just have to do laps in my house today because it's been storming all day. So I don't know. I did a mile so far somehow between here and the kitchen. So I don't know if that's good or bad because I was headed to the fridge a lot. So
I'm impressed.
Don't be.
I'm impressed. Tom, what have you been doing to enjoy your life?
I'm going to plead the fifth.
Okay. Well,
I will honestly say, I feel like a total hypocrite when that question comes up because I've written about self-care. I talk about self-care and I will honestly say, like, I'm not good at it. I'm just not. Like, I'm that type A. I haven't read a fiction book since college. I haven't watched a full TV series in probably 20 years. Like, I just don't do any of that. And part of it, I'd be like, I know I should maybe look at that and change some of those things. But I just feel like if I'm like watching some TV show, more than one episode at some random time, like I'm almost like wasting time that I could do something else. And part of it is that's how I'm wired. And I know people totally disagree. And I'm not saying it's a good thing at all. But like my downtime is often like listening to like a podcast on finances on like how I can get better. And so for me, it's almost like looking at that thing of like, how do I continuously grow? What do I continuously do? And so I'm not great with downtime, but I would say COVID and being forced home has allowed me to prioritize time with my family, my children. And so if I were to say self-care, like it's definitely that.
Awesome. Yeah. And I want to, that's so cool that you're saying that. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask this, because I know that both of you could probably be hypocrites. I could be a hypocrite. Okay. Like it is something that we could all be a hypocrite about. I want to give a shout out to Jen Burtis. I started working out with her on a Zoom 2 weeks ago. And today, Fridays are like the kickboxing day. And they're really like, it's really fun. But I have started finally taking care of myself. It was on a conversation with you, Rachelle, a month ago when I admitted that I had hit a all-time heavyweight title for myself. And I'm just like, this is not working. So I started working out with Jen. Another thing that I've been doing, and I've had a lot of family stuff go on, like crazy stuff that I can't share on here. It's crazy. but I have started reading, this is ridiculous, but I'm going to put this out there. Harlequin romance books. I love them. They are my guilty pleasure. I could read 198 pages in one day, and it like takes my mind off everything. And I'm just going to say, guys, it's a good escape. I'm just telling you.
I will tell you, I will be zero help in that category because I'm not me. so good luck on that one because I got nothing for you there.
Okay, so Melody,
yes.
I'm sorry. I have 3 things for that. So thing number 1, when I was younger, I bought a lot of those Harlequin, not to read them, but because they were a quarter at the whatever, like people would sell them at, I don't know, Goodwill or something. Yeah. Yes. So I paid a quarter for them. So I had a bunch of them. The other thing is, I don't think I ever read one, but I could see how in 198 pages, because the original, they were smaller books. And the third thing is I actually wrote about Harlequin books in one of my books because I just said, I always liked books. I like to collect books apparently as a kid. And I don't know that I talked about the Harlequin, but you're actually reading them. So I am not reading those.
Yes. When I was in middle school, I would lock myself up in a room. I would get all of those quarter ones from garage sales, and I would read one right after another. That's how I know about life, y'all. You know, it educated me. But I hadn't read anything fun. I noticed this like a couple of weeks ago. I hadn't read anything super fun that was like just taking my mind off everything. So I went to Walmart and I got a couple of them, and I don't regret it at all. So I have a guilty pleasure.
I'm going to chalk this up as a first-time conversation for me live on the air around that area. So I got nothing. I got no contribution to that conversation. Sorry.
It's
okay.
This is what happens.
It is true. It's true. But, you know, I decided it's really been fun for me, and I have laughed. These books are always really fun for me, like in a lot of ways. But as we get to closer to our end, what are some of the weekend chats or opportunities that other educators can join in? We know we have TLAP in the morning,
books.
right? I know that.
Oh, yeah. Reading books. No. Saturdays are always great chats. There's EduGladiators. There's Lead Lap, I think, Lead Up Chat. There's Crazy PLN. There's the Ed Chat EU. I'm sure there's probably a ton of other ones going on too. I don't know. What, Tom, you know of any? Or any learning events? Any PD? Are you giving a keynote tomorrow?
Not tomorrow. I have 6 next week though. So I'll be gearing up for those. That's correct. Yes. I got 6 next week. But my weekend, I honestly, like, one of the things I've tried to do after I just said like the whole self-care thing I'm not good at is I do try and disconnect a little bit on Saturday and at least Sunday morning. And so I used to be like 5 chats a week doing all this stuff. And I've toned that back just because I recognized in the times that I was doing that at night and in the times that I was doing that on like a Saturday or Sunday morning, those were times with my babies that I'm realizing like I'm disconnected to them all day. And now I'm going home and disconnecting from them at night. And so that's one way, going back to that self-care question, I guess I did do that, trying to do those pieces. And so I would encourage educators, take part in some of those chats, have fun with that stuff, but don't forget about you in the process.
Amen.
Great advice.
I agree. I'm not a big on Twitter chats anymore. I used to love them. And that's how I grew my PLN. But now I agree. Like, it's sometimes it can be just one more thing. And if you're going to choose yourself, choose your family. Sometimes if you're feeling like it's just too much. So thank you for sharing.
I would say don't feel obligated to do one every particular week just because it's such and such a chat. Find something that's you're interested in, an area that you don't know about and you really want to grow in. There's been a lot of kind of hot topics in those areas, and that'd be great for that. Get some resources, hear some other opinions, connect with a diverse group of people. And I think they're really, really good for that. But don't feel obligated that you're missing out on something if you can't join from some random night because you're hanging with your family or something like that. You just make sure to keep our priorities in check when we talk about this stuff.
That's right.
And don't be afraid to start a chat. Like, start a slow chat. My favorites are slow chats where you can chime in at any point. Because I hate that like really rush. So, and then of course you have the limitation of characters. So like if you have a question out there, I've seen some amazing educators lately put out some thoughts and then, just get a whole bunch of feedback and good feedback, not like fighting or anything like that. So don't be afraid to put something out there, and you can put it in our community here also and Thrive and Educate, and the Facebook community. So yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, do you guys have any last words that you want to impart on us before we leave?
I would simply say on my end, of any educator watching this, thank you for your work and thank you for loving and caring about kids. And thank you for doing what you do, especially in the midst of adversity, especially in the midst of uncertainty. don't lose hope, because we will get through this, and relying on each other is more important than ever before. Connecting with those people that you know have your back and will do whatever it takes to support you. I think being vulnerable right now is an okay thing and a good thing. And I think just keep failing forward and know that things are going to happen in the coming weeks and months that are way out of our comfort zones, and just be willing to just keep rolling with it, and knowing that every time we fail, it's an opportunity to get up and keep trying, and to model those that look up to us, like how we just keep moving forward and persevere. And thank you for what you do every single day, because you are life changers. And I don't say that lightly.
I got nothing after that, because that is definitely the best wrap up that we have had. So, and I'm sure, on a perfect day too, because I know this week has been, for everybody that I've talked to, it's just been like, oh my goodness. So thank you, Tom, for joining us on our Friday Thrive O'Clock, where clearly we're more awake and alert than we have been at 11 a.m.
It's Thrive O'Clock somewhere, right?
It is.
That's right.
That's right.
That's actually what I have on my ticker right there, but I forgot to put it's Thrive O'Clock somewhere.
There it is.
It is. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, ladies. Good to connect.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Bye.
Bye.